Addictive foods. The most common food for people to describe as addictive is probably sugar. Some people go as far as comparing sugar's addictive properties to that of cocaine, whereas other people strongly refute this idea. I don't think many people would argue that sugary treats can be hyperpalatable, which is basically a posh word for fucking delicious. And of course, anything that is hyperpalatable is easy to consume in excess. Perhaps you resonate with the feeling of having just one bite of a cookie and then having this uncontrollable urge to just hoover up the entire pack. But there's something important to point out here. Sugar is rarely consumed in huge quantities in its purest form only. I mean, most people have bags of sugar sitting at home in the cupboards for them to bake with or put into cups of tea. But for some reason, these bags just sit there innocently. You don't get the urge to faceplant it and motorboat it. I mean, if you put sugar cubes on a buffet table next to cakes, biscuits, donuts and ice cream, how many people are going to go for the sugar cubes? My guess is probably not many. So if we do compare this to cocaine, that's like someone in the club turning down a bag of the pure stuff because they will only consume it in biscuit form. If it's addictive on its own, why don't more people consume it on its own? So whilst people argue whether sugar fits the definition of food addiction, I think it's just important to take a step back and view it in the grand scheme of things. In one study, participants were asked to rank problematic foods based on characteristics like loss of control while consuming them and inability to cut down despite wanting to do so. And what were the trends? Well, the largest trend for foods being described as addictive-like was actually food processing. Food processing in this study was described as the addition of highly refined carbohydrates, which could include sugar, and or fats. But look what happens when we remove foods that don't have a high amount of added fats as well. Processed foods that were high in refined carbohydrates and fat tended to rank significantly higher than processed foods that were high in refined carbohydrates only. And both of these ranked significantly higher than unprocessed foods that were high in sugar. Interestingly, when looking at unprocessed foods only, the combination of fat and salt tended to be more associated with addictive-like properties than unprocessed foods high in sugar only. So whilst we're arguing whether sugar itself can be described as addictive, wouldn't it make sense to just take a step back, understand that yes, sugar can add to the taste properties of a food, but there is a lot more to this than sugar itself in isolation.